I'm doing just fine. I'm doing just fine. If you want to talk to me now, I'm here.
All right.
Okay?
As I said before, I read an article in the Charlotte paper that PBS was going to do this, what do you call it,
A
documentary
documentary?
about the Firestone strike, and said if anybody had any information, they to call them or write them. And of course, I decided to call and might be able to help you out some on that strike. I don't know, but I'll.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I'd surely appreciate it. Tell me,
first, first off, let me ask you this: have you read the book called Mill Hands and Preachers?
um, actually, I have read parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have,
That's a very good book
uh-huh,
by Liston Pope.
right.
Of course, I've read it, had a copy of it. Where it came about getting that book was my wife and I were going to Gaston College, I believe, back in the mid '70s.
Uh-huh.
She chose to write a paper on the Firestone strike, and in gathering information, we found out that there was a book by this name called Mill Hands and Preachers. We went to the library to check
Could
the
I
book.
ask you a question?
Sure.
Where are you? Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Gastonia?
Yes, ma'am. I grew up on a textile village.
You did.
Sure did.
And how old are you now?
60.
Okay.
I don't. I don't. The strike was before I was born. Of course, in 1929. I was born in '32. But I heard my folks talk about it. And when my wife did this paper on the Firestone strike, I went with her and we interviewed people that actually lived there during the strike,
Really?
and even interviewed the police chief at Adderholt. He was killed, during the strike, and we interviewed his son.
Really?
Hmm.
Wow, that is fascinating.
And at one time, we were taking I believe, his English class under Robert Williams. He is an English teacher at Gaston College.
Uh-huh.
He wanted to do a outdoor drama on the Firestone strike, but the college would not allow it because they got donations from textile companies around in the county.
Right. So what happened?
They never did, have the outdoor drama. The college wouldn't allow it.
That's fascinating.
And even when I was growing up, the company owned the mills, houses, and of course they had complete control over the people who live in those houses.
Right.
And on the village where I live,
Which village did you live in?
I live on the Myrtle Village,
Uh-huh.
which is 3 or 4 miles from Firestone.
Do you still live there?
No, I live out in the country, in a rural area.
Uh-huh.
But I worked briefly in the cotton mill in the late '40s when I was going to high school.
Right.
And of course, I realized right off that wasn't a life for me. But of course, I'm getting in the area where you don't want to hear. But the textile mills in this county had virtual control over. They exploited the people.
Did your parents work in the mills?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Both of them, and some of my brothers and sisters worked in the mill.
Yeah.
You were sort of, if a man had children, when they got old enough to work, they were expected to come into the mill and work. It was just a foregone conclusion that you'd work for the company if you lived in their house.
Right.
And on the village where I live, the superintendent's first name was David, and they call him King David on account of the way he ran the village.
They called him what, David?
King David.
King David.
Wow.
Wow.
He ruled the village, and he treated the children the workers like children. The textile industry in the South was organized around parentalism, wherein they felt like the textile workers didn't have enough sense or education to handle their own affairs, and they tried to do it for them.
Uh-huh.
Of course, there's a type of exploitation, in my opinion.
Is that why you got out of the mill business? Is that why you got out of working there?
Oh yeah. In the late '40s, they sold the houses to the workers, and the superintendent on our village almost had a nervous breakdown.
Why?
He said they sell these houses, those folks can work anywhere they want to work. And it worried him on that account.
Really? Was this King David?
Yeah, that's King David. I almost had a nervous breakdown on account of the people having the freedom to choose where they want to work without interference from someone like him that actually tried to control their own lives. I have a friend that grew up on the village. His father had a car, which, very few cars around back then.
Right.
And folks would ask him to take them places. Of course, they'd buy him gas for doing that. And King David come around and said, Shorty, said, you're going too much. Said, where are you getting the money to go? Of course, Shorty, he's a feisty little fellow, and he said he told him it wasn't none of his business. But that's the way they tried to control workers. And of course, the Firestone is not any different from the Myrtle village as far as the way they treat the workers. In the book Mill Hands and Preachers, in there it tells how that the superintendent of the mill would have the preachers in the various churches on the village that come in once a month, and they'd have a sort of discussion. He'd ask them how's John Doe treating his wife and children? Is he going to church regularly? He'd check on the workers to see how they were doing, if they're working regular, if they're treating their family right, if they're attending church regular. And at the end of the meeting, he'd give each one of them $5.
He would give the preacher $5?
Yeah, give each minister $5. And back then, that's more than a worker made in a whole week. And of course, even in, we in the midst of the elections now, and back then, they come around and told the workers how they wanted to vote.
Even now?
No, back then.
Right.
Of course, the workers were afraid not to do like the superintendent told them, because it may get back to him and they'd fire you on just the least little thing.
Right.
I know of instances where a man and his wife, I believe they had 4 or 5 children, and one of the girls got pregnant. Of course, it wasn't any fault of his, and his wife had cancer at the time, and he fired those folks and moved them out of that house just on that account.
Wow.
And over on the Arcade village, which is just sort of adjacent to Myrtle village, the superintendent over there, he fired a worker because his daughter got pregnant, and lo and behold, his own daughter got pregnant.
And what happened to him?
Nothing.
This is the supervisor's daughter.
Yeah, he's
King David?
No, he's a different fellow.
Different supervisor.
Yep.
This is at a different mill.
Yeah, it's the Arcade mill.
Uh-huh.
But they really had a lot of control over workers, and the way they treated workers was just, the blacks talk about being under domination, but the textile workers were also under domination. Back in the, I believe the late 40s, they decided they needed a new hospital in Gaston. So whenever they decided to do something like that, they'd ask for donations from textile workers, and the workers were afraid not to contribute to a drive like that for fear of losing their jobs.
Wow.
See, every village that they built, they'd always set aside land for a church. They felt like if they had their workers at church on Sunday night, they wouldn't be out carousing around, and they'd be at work on Monday morning. This was a theory behind establishing churches in all the villages.
How long did you grow up in this village?
I stayed there, let's see, I believe it was about 18 years old.
And why did you leave?
My parents bought a farm, and they moved out to the farm. Of course, I went with them.
And you're still there?
Well, I have my own place now.
Are your parents still living?
No, they're both gone now.
Were your parents involved in that strike in 1934?
my daddy wasn't involved in it, but he was sympathetic to the strikers. I heard him talk about it before. And the local paper, the Gastonia Gazette, was very, very opposed to the strike. There's one lady that was pro-union that was killed, and they never did find out who killed her, and they even didn't try.
Okay, now that...
Ella Mae Wiggins.
Right, now that's in 1929.
Yeah, that's when the strike occurred, back in 29.
Right, there were two strikes. You know, there's the one in 29, and then there's that one in 34. That big general strike in 34.
I'm not too familiar with that. In 29 is when the police chief was killed.
Right. Do you still have that paper that your wife wrote for that class?
It may be here. I'll have her to try to find it.
I'd love to read it.
She keeps everything. And hopefully she still got it.
Well, it would be a wonderful thing to read.
Whenever we went to the library to check that book out.
Which one? The Millhands and Preachers? Yeah.
We were told that it was not on the shelf. It was in a back room, and it was not to leave that room. But the fellow that was there relented. He said, "If you'll bring this book back to me," he said, "I'll let you take it out."
Why did they want to keep it in the back room?
Well, the things contained in that book is embarrassing to the textile industry in the county. I don't guess they really want it known how people were treated back then. And it's embarrassing to the people who run those textile mills.
How do people deal with that embarrassment now?
Well, I think there's a lot of resentment toward it, but of course there's nothing they can do now because most of the old line workers are dead or elderly, where they have sort of put it behind them.
The elderly have put it behind them?
Yeah, I think so. Of course, they still, in my opinion, carry it with them because I can remember whenever this superintendent on our village, after he retired, he came back to the church there in the village. And folks just ignored him just like he was a non-person. They wouldn't have anything to do with the man. And he was really pitiful because here he was amongst the folks that had worked for him all those years, and they just act, when church would let out, at noon, and people stand around in front of the church and talk with each other, and they just walk by him just like he was a bush or a tree, like he didn't exist. And he was a very pitiful old man. He did things that he used to fire people for when he was superintendent. And it's sort of ironic that when something like that happened to a man, he exploited those workers, but yet he came back home to haunt him. And the fact that they shunned him and had nothing to do with it.
Now
Quite a few of them were that way.
What about to the mill owners?
They probably didn't know who the mill owners were. I'm sure if they did, they felt the same way about the owners. Even when I went to high school, there was only one high school, Gastonia High School at that time. And if you worked in the mill, you were looked down upon, and sometimes people would, call you a linhead or something of that name. They sort of felt like you was a lower class citizen.
Did anyone ever call you a lynthead?
No. I was sort of feisty little fellow when I was coming up, and I wasn't afraid of man or beast, and I think maybe that's the reason that they knew that they called me something with that name. They might have to ball up a fist because I do battle with them. I just wouldn't stand for anything like that.
Now, but in a town like Gastonia, where everyone's making their money off textiles, and there's so many spindles, and so many mills, and everyone seemed to be connected to the mill, weren't they?
Oh yeah, mills were everything because, of course, you had the uptown class, you had the suburban class, which is farmers, and then you had the textile workers in the villages. And the uptown people, like you say, they looked down upon the village workers as uneducated, crude, and they sort of treat them like they were, like I said before, like they were children. And for instance, if my parents wanted to buy some furniture, or say my dad wanted a refrigerator, he'd go up to Gastonia and to the furniture store and talk to the folks about buying a refrigerator. And before they would sell him that refrigerator, they'd call the superintendent out to the mill where my dad worked, and they'd ask, do you think Mr. Griggs ought to have a refrigerator? If that superintendent said yes, then we could get that refrigerator. If he said no, we couldn't get it. And my dad had excellent credit. But the superintendent made that decision for him, which was very, very unfair.
Did this happen to your father?
No. But I know that's the way they handle the workers. My dad was a good man and had real good credit. But
How do you think that this this class conflict plays out today, 57 years later, let's say after that big strike, or
well, I think it's still there, but not just as noticeable as it was back then. Of course, in the last 20 years, Gastonia has diversified quite a bit, and it makes it much better for us people, working. And used to, we had two banks in town. They were local banks, of course. They were run by the textile industry, and they controlled the finances in the county. For a long time, they controlled who came in the county with new industry and who did come. They didn't want anybody in the county that paid higher wages than they did.
Really?
Oh yeah. But now we're pretty well diversified in the county. There's a lot of different industries besides textiles, so things are better. But there's still a lot of old line families in town that up until recently had a lot of money invested in textiles. Of course, some of them have been sold, and that makes a difference in the way a town's run.
So is there anything that you can tell me about that strike in 29, or that later strike when your father was could you tell me something more about your father being sympathetic, why he didn't join the union?
Well, for fear of losing his job. My mother said he went to several of the meetings, but yet he never did sign on with the union. But he was sympathetic towards the workers because he knew how they were exploited because of the conditions where he worked.
Was he sorry, you think, that he never joined?
Was he sorry?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never discussed it with him. I wish I had. I heard him, quite a bit talk about life on the village. Of course, like I say, I lived on the village till I was about 18 years old. And there are certain things that you lived on the village you were expected to do because the superintendent ruled the village. I had a friend tell me one time that he talked about a certain worker in the mill, but I saw him come out of the house of ill repute on Saturday night and said he was so drunk he could hardly stand up. And said he was at church the next morning and led the opening devotion. Well, he had to do that to hold his job in the mill. He was expected to go to church. And he had a family, 5 or 6 children, and so rather than be set out on the street, he did what the superintendent expected him to do, wanted him to do. And that's the way it was in the textile villages. The superintendent worker, say a worker, one of, let's say Besson City, came out and visited a friend, and somebody offered him a beer, and he drank that beer. If somebody in that mill saw him drink that beer and told the superintendent on Monday morning, the superintendent would fire him. Of course, that meant if he fired him, he had to move out of his house. Didn't have a place to go. The one I told you about earlier, when his daughter got pregnant, he had to move out. Well, he moved in a little old building that looked like it maybe 10 by 14 or something like that. Real small. No plumbing, just a little light hanging in the front. And he and his family had to live in a building like that because the superintendent fired him. This was the only thing he could find to move his family into. You really ought to read that book, Bill Hands Free.
I've heard a lot of these different stories from different people, and you are certainly confirming very much what we've heard. And do you think that all of this led to people deciding, okay, it's time for me to join up with the union?
I think a lot of them would like very much to join the union, but they were afraid to. See, when a man, now I came up in a family of 9 children.
Your father had 9 children?
Yeah, large family. And of course, he knew that he couldn't find suitable housing if he left the village. So they rented those houses, I think is about, I recall, they charged about 40 cents a room for the house. And they'd take that out of your pay. Of course, they'd furnish you things like coal, and they'd take that out of your pay.
Are there? So, when I'm very very appreciative of all of the story. Are there people that you think that we should talk to, that you spoke with when you were doing your paper about 1929 strike?
Well, let me see. One of the fellows we talked with has already passed away. I know that worked in the Firestone Mill.
Who was that?
He was past master to Masonic Lodge where I belong. Winston Crawford was his name.
And he's deceased.
Yes, ma'am. But he actually worked at the Firestone. I may be able to come up with a few names of people that actually worked there when the strike went on. I'll check around and see if I can. If I do, would you like me to give you their name?
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. It's interesting to me that you know a lot about the 1929 strike. I'm wondering if you'd ever heard anything other about this big general strike in 1934 which they tried 5 years later.
No, I wasn't aware they had one. Are you sure they had one in 34?
Uh-huh.
39 was a big strike where Fred Beale...
No, that's 29.
29. I mean, Fred Beale was the organizer, communist organizer.
Right.
And I believe after the strike, after the police chief was killed, he fled to Russia, but later came back and served time in prison for that. But you sort of stumped me there when you talk about the 34 because I'm not aware of that strike.
Really?
Because,
and what year were you born? You were born in 32.
Yeah.
So you were about 2 years old when that took place.
I've never heard anybody else. You're the first one I've ever heard talk about the 34 strike.
Well, it was a nationwide strike, and it took place all over the country, but it was very, very big in the South. Very big.
I'm sort of stumped you there because...
well, I don't mean to stump you.
all I had really heard about was the Firestone strike.
And what kind of, when you and your wife were doing your interviews, how did people respond to you?
They were very open about it.
Really?
Yeah, they sure were.
Why, we have come across many people who are frightened to speak, and what do you think made people feel so open when you were doing this study?
Well, it may be the fact that we were just folks around wanting to know something about some of the early history back was in my 40s back then, but that's not considered old now.
No.
Even I'm 60 now, but I don't consider myself very old. I'm in good health and don't have any health problems that I'm aware of.
Were there any people that said, hey, put it away, we don't need to talk about that?
Oh no, everybody we talked to, we'd ask them questions, they'd respond.
And
Even the police chief's son was very open about it.
now, his son, didn't he move to Ranlow, North Carolina?
I don't know. When we talked to him, he lived uptown Gastonia, sort of in the northwestern section of Gastonia.
And how did most of the people, did you talk to anybody that was involved in the union, or did you only, at the time?
No, we just talked to people that we knew that actually worked there during the strike. Like I say, a lot of folks may have been sympathetic to the union, but they wouldn't dare let anybody know about it because of fear of losing their job.
Did anybody tell you about it even after all those years, that they were sympathetic for the union?
I don't believe we actually asked them that question. But I'll certainly try to look up that paper and see if she may still have that paper she did on the strike. And I'll question her to see if she can remember some of the other names. And I'll also try to, I'm sure there's some folks still living that worked at that place.
Well, that would be great.
Because back then, so you could go to work at 8 years old.
Yeah.
They'd take youngsters, they're big enough to stand up, they'd put them to work.
Now, that strike in 1929, was it very big? I mean, did a lot of people join up with that local union? Did a lot of people come out on strike?
Yeah, there's a pretty good crowd that participated in it.
And were they outsiders, or were they local people from Gastonia?
Except for Fred Bill and a few of his organizers, they were mostly folks from Gastonia.
So it seems that some people from Gastonia at the time really wanted to have a union, didn't they?
Well, they wanted better working conditions, and I'm sure they felt like the union gave them their only hope of better working conditions. What they did is stressed out the workers. Like maybe if they were working, running, say, 10 spinning frames, they put 15 on them. And just almost slave-type labor. And like I say, people had a family, and most folks that did have families were, committed to the families. They wouldn't swap off the jobs because they knew other jobs would be hard to find. And sometimes, if you were fired from one mill, the superintendent would, they call it blackballing. He'd call the other mill and say, don't hire Dewey Griggs, because he ain't no count. Sometimes you had to move out of the county to get another job.
Did you know anybody that was blackballed?
No, I just heard my parents talk about it. I'm sure they could give me names, but they're both gone now.
Were your parents very frightened?
Do what?
Were your parents frightened?
Oh, sure, they're afraid to lose their job.
And did it seem like they lived in a way that was frightened all the time? Were people frightened of the superintendent all the time?
Oh, yeah, they knew that if they stepped out of line, that he'd fire them. And if they were fired, they had to move out of the house. And of course, if they went to another textile plant, the superintendent there might call back to Myrtle and say, well, how was Dewey Griggs? Was he a good worker? The superintendent, he's sorry and shiftless, but don't give him a job. So he would get a job.
Wow. Well, I sure appreciate talking with you, sir.
Even in this book called Mill Hands and Preachers, it tells about one preacher that was preaching in the local church in the village. And he didn't preach exactly like the superintendent wanted to preach. So the superintendent started spreading rumors about the preaching. And he eventually lost his credentials to preach. Just based on rumors that the superintendent spread around, because the superintendent didn't like what he was preaching. So now I belong to the Methodist church, and they generally assign a minister to a church for a full year. Sometimes he'll stay 4, sometimes less, sometimes more, but in general about 4 years. And they'd always say that the conference didn't send them the kind of preachers they wanted. Because the preacher didn't preach what the superintendent felt like ought to have been preached.
And what did the superintendent want preached?
Whatever his views were. necessarily the gospel. It was just whatever his views on right and wrong was. Like I say, he was the king of the village, and he dictated what was preached in the church. If the preacher didn't go along with his feelings, then he'd have the preacher sent off.
Now but the superintendent was hired. I mean, he was certainly the boss, but he had a boss, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he was hired by the mill owner, and I'm sure that this is kind of ways the mill owner told him that, to run the mill in the village. He was probably instructed on what he should do and what he shouldn't do.
But so do you think that people saw the mill owner as in the same way that they saw the superintendent, or were they sort of two different kinds of figures?
Well, I think the people were sort of far enough removed from the mill owner, they couldn't really see him. All they could see was how the superintendent treated them.
Right.
And of course, the mill owner, he's sitting in office, in a corporate office somewhere, and never had any contact with the mill workers.
Now that I've heard of mill owners that really knew, like Charlie Cannon, really knew his workers, and they saw him. In a real local mill. Was that different than the one that you grew up in? The mill owner was real kind of removed?
Oh, yeah.
Was the mill owner from the north or the south? He was.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the mill owner?
The Myers family owned the mill where my dad worked.
Uh-huh.
H.C. Myers. They also owned the local bank. At one time it was called Citizens National Bank, and of course through a series of mergers it's now finally merged with a BB&T bank, an Eastern bank.
Wow. And who owned the newspaper?
The Atkins, Atkins, Atkins.
Did they have a mill too?
No, but they were very sympathetic towards the mill owners and very anti-union.
And what has happened since every time the union tried to get organized? I mean, they did successfully organize at the Firestone Mill, didn't they?
Finally, yeah. Of course, now the talk at the Firestone is fixing to close, and they're going to build a new plant somewhere else.
Are they going to build it nearby?
Well, they don't know at this point in time. It could be nearby, and it could be some other location. And of course, they're negotiating with the union, asking the union to do certain things in hopes that they may be able to locate gas on it. See, it's owned by the Japanese now.
Right.
But mill owners in general, in my opinion, of course, I'm not afraid to say this because I don't deal in textiles, and I feel like that I'm a free man and express my opinion on the facts that I have at hand. And I think mill owners have generally exploited workers and taken advantage of workers down through the years. And a lot of times you have a thing where if you get along, you go along. You've got to hunker down and do what the people above you want done, whether it's necessarily right or whether it's wrong. You do it because they want it done, if you want to get along. And I don't buy that theory. I feel like I'm a free man and can live the way I want to live as long as I don't infringe on anybody else's freedom. That ain't necessarily like a lot of people think, but that's the way I think.
Well, it sounds like it takes a lot of courage to say that.
It does. I mean, sometimes it costs you, in your work or whatever, but I think a man, whatever station he had in life, if he does his best and becomes a craftsman, he'll eventually get work.
Are you working now or are you retired?
I'm still working.
What do you do?
I'm an architect.
In the country or in the city?
Well, I have an office in the city, but I live out in the country because I like to have a little open space.
Yeah, I bet. So do you commute into Gastonia or Charlotte?
Well, I have an office over in Kings Mountain, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
9 miles from where I live, and Gastonia is about 7.5, so it's not almost the same distance, a whole lot less congestion,
Right.
and the rent's much lower.
That's super.
And
Well,
there's some in Charlotte,
oh, excuse me. Wow.
but there's about 400 architects in Charlotte.
Is that how many are in Kings Mountain?
One.
Just you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're doing okay.
Well, I'm getting by.
Architecture's tough right now, isn't it?
It is. It's real slack right now.
Yeah, I know. My dad's involved in the same business, and it's very lean. Yeah, he's a subcontractor. He does interiors, and he's had a hard couple of years.
I don't doubt that at all. I've been very fortunate. I've been doing some work for Sandoz Corporation for the last 18 months, a big chemical corporation, and I've been, 40 hours a week, full time.
That's great.
And a lot of architects don't have anything. Of course, I'm not doing anything. I haven't done anything about 3 or 4 weeks now, but I've just been piddling around, working around my house. And first one thing and another, I feel like things break out for too long, and I'm not real worried about things.
Well, I hope that they do.
I'm close enough to retirement, 2 more years, and I can at least get on Social Security if it still exists. But I don't ever intend to fully retire. I want to just semi-retire and work when I want to work.
Well, that sounds like a real luxury.
As long as as long as my hand's steady and my eyesight's good, I intend to work.
Could I have your address, Mr. Griggs?
Sure. My home address is 704 White and Jenkins Road.
Dwight and Jenkins?
White, like, the color white.
Uh-huh, okay.
White and Jenkins Road.
Jenkins?
Jenkins.
Okay.
Bessemer City, North Carolina. 28016.
Bessemer City, North Carolina. 28016.
016.
Okay. Great. And I have your phone number, so that's no problem.
All right. And I'll try to get you some more information on that. If we can find that paper, we'll make a photocopy of it and maybe take.
That would be super.
I cut that little clip out of paper with the address.
What did you think when you read that article?
I said, boy, I'm glad. I hope they do the documentary and do justice to the town. I said, really, the people that, according to the paper, the people that they interviewed so far is going to be biased in their opinion as to how people were treated. They're going to tell you that people were treated, in a kind manner, but that's not true. They were exploited.
I think a lot of people are very frightened to say that, Mr. Griggs.
Yeah, I think they are too. I really do. A lot of people are afraid to say anything. And I recall my dad worked in the mill till he died. In fact, he was hurt in the mill, and we had to get a lawyer to collect workman's compensation for him from my mother. And we wouldn't get a local lawyer because we were afraid that they wouldn't represent us in the. They'd be afraid to represent us the way that they should represent us. So I was working in Charlotte at the time and working for an architect, and I told him I was looking for a lawyer. And he said, why don't you talk to Charlie Knox? He was in the same building, and I went to talk to Charlie, and he said, Ray, I'd like to do that job for you, but I can put you in contact with a fellow that's a real pro and can do you a better job than I can do. I said, give me his name. And he told me his name was Robert L. Scott, and he was the nephew of a former governor of North Carolina, and I went to him and explained to him, and he said, yes, but I'll take it for you. And whenever, the way they handle it in North Carolina, the labor board, they have hearings in various cities from time to time, and the labor commissioner comes in and holds these hearings about these cases. And I went to 3 or 4 hearings, and of all the hearings that I went to, only one other textile firm in Gastonia had claims, except my dad worked for a company called Textile Incorporated, and they had about 10 or 11 plants around the county. And every time the claims were against that company, except one. And whenever we were holding those hearings, he called, our lawyer had Mr. A.G. Myers Jr. to appear as a witness. And Mr. Myers came up to the courtroom like, why could I be here? Look at me, I'm A.G. Myers Jr. I own all these textile mills. I'm an official, I shouldn't be here. that lawyer asked him a few questions, and he answered in a real booming voice, just like it. We should get up, do a little bow or curtsy to him. And he asked him about the case, and Mr. Myers couldn't answer any questions about the case. He had already been sent material about it. And that lawyer proceeded to address that man. Man, I mean, I guarantee you nobody in the past has ever dared to talk to that man in that manner. And he pointed his finger at him. I mean, he really read into him, and finally he said, now, I want you to read this material here, and when you're through, I'll be sitting right over there. You let me know. I think you can answer me some questions about it. Of course, when he started answering questions about it, he almost had to strain to hear him because he was meek as a lamb. He had met his match, and he wasn't a lawyer in Gastonia. They'd been afraid to do that. They were country club members, you know, and they'd be afraid to offend.
Wow.
Fella.
Well, what happened to your relationship to Gastonia and your families after that happened?
Well, not anything that I could tell, you know. Of course, I'm talking about in the 60s, 30 years after the strike. Of course, people owned their own houses, and that made a difference.
Right. And did the fact that did it get real publicized that you had taken the mill to court?
Because quite a few of those mills were being taken to court where workers were being injured, and they try to do them out of their claims. And even my dad fell and injured broke a little tiny bone in his foot, and he didn't know that it was broken. He worked that day and the next day and the next day, and gangrene set in. When he got into the hospital, they discovered he had diabetes. It took quite a while for it to heal. Well, it never did heal. And he actually caught a staph infection in the hospital, and that's what killed him. Of course, they didn't tell us till the statute of limitations had run out.
Wow.
I was sitting in my doctor's office one day, and he told me that your dad died from a staph infection. Of course, the statute of limitations had expired before we could actually place a lawsuit in the hospital.
Do you still have family in Gastonia?
Yeah, I still have, there's 8 of us still living. I have a sister, well, there's only 7 in Gastonia. I have a sister in Houston.
Are you the youngest or the oldest?
Let's see, I have 3 brothers younger than me. And I have 1 brother and 3 sisters older than me.
You know what you might want to do? Just curiosity's sakes, you might want to ask one of your older siblings if they remember about the strike that took place after the 1929 strike in 1934.
I will. My older sister, I have 1 sister that's adopted, and she's about 75, I believe. And I'll talk to her about it.
Because you were only 2 years old, but maybe she was certainly a little older.
Yeah, she'd have been working in a textile mill at that time, because back then, like I say, they could have worked really late.
Right.
So,
well, why don't you ask her about that? Because maybe it was a big strike that a lot of people don't know about what happened in 1934. It might be very interesting for you to get that. But I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I look forward to talking to you again.
I'll try to get as much information as I can.
Okay. And when we come back to Gastonia or the area, can we give you a call?
Sure.
Okay, I will do that.
I have an answer machine here, so if I'm not here, just leave word.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Thanks so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed talking with you too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.